Your body just woke you up again, not because it had to, but because something inside you is running at the wrong time. Right now, while you think you're resting, part of your system is quietly building pressure that will drag you out of sleep, whether you like it or not. And the worst part? It started hours before you even closed your eyes. If you're serious about taking better care of your health, make sure you subscribe. I share simple, practical advice designed especially for seniors. And feel free to leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. I always read them and appreciate every one of you. Let's get back to it. There's something happening to millions of people every single night, and almost nobody questions it. They just accept it. They accept the interruption. They accept the exhaustion. They accept waking up in the dark, shuffling across a cold floor, and losing the best hours of their sleep. Because somebody once told them, that's just what getting older feels like. But that's not the truth. And tonight, I'm going to prove it. It's somewhere around 2 a.m. The house is completely still. The room is dark. Your body has finally settled into that deep, heavy sleep. The kind that actually heals you. The kind that makes the next day worth living. Then something pulls you out. No alarm, no noise, no disturbance. Just pressure. You try to ignore it. You shift to one side. You pull the covers up tighter. You tell yourself, just a few more minutes. But your body doesn't negotiate. You sit up, swing your legs over the side of the bed, shuffle through the dark, stand under a light that feels far too harsh for 2 in the morning. Then you go back, lie down, close your eyes, and wait. But sleep doesn't come back the same way. Your mind is awake now. Your body is restless. And the deep, restorative sleep you were finally getting? Gone. And the next morning, you feel it. That low, dull heaviness behind your eyes. The fog that follows you into your first cup of coffee. The irritability that arrives before breakfast. The fatigue that sits on your shoulders all day, even though you technically were in bed for 8 hours. That's what this really costs you. Not just the trip to the bathroom, but everything that comes after. I'm Dr. James Cross. I've spent years watching patients manage this problem the wrong way, cutting fluids, taking medications, rearranging their entire evenings, and still waking up 2-3 times a night. Not because the solutions don't exist, but because they were solving the wrong problem. Here's what I need you to hear. A body running correctly does not wake you up at night to urinate. Not once, not occasionally, not as a normal feature of aging. If it's happening to you consistently, something inside your biology is mistimed, not broken, not diseased, mistimed. And here's what almost nobody tells you. Your body was built with a system specifically designed to protect your sleep. A biological signal, a quiet instruction sent every night that's supposed to tell your kidneys, slow down, the body is resting, stop producing. Most people have no idea that signal exists, and even fewer realize they've been accidentally shutting it off. Every single evening, without knowing it. That's what this video is about. Not pills, not restriction, not giving up the things you enjoy, just understanding what's actually happening inside your body at night, and how to fix it. So let's start with the thing everyone gets wrong, the bladder. The moment this problem begins, the midnight trips, the broken sleep, the exhaustion that follows you into the next day, most people point to one place. My bladder is weak. My bladder is overactive. My bladder is the problem. And that assumption, that single misunderstanding, is exactly why most people never fix this. Here's what your bladder actually is. It's a storage container. That's it. It doesn't decide when to fill. It doesn't decide how fast to fill. It doesn't generate pressure on its own. It simply receives what's sent to it and holds it until it can't anymore. Blaming your bladder for waking you up at night is like blaming your mailbox for the bills inside it. The mailbox didn't create the problem. It just received the delivery. So if the bladder isn't the source, what is? The answer is upstream, way upstream. Your body runs a chain of command when it comes to fluid management, and that chain starts not in your bladder, but in your brain. Your brain sends signals. Those signals reach your hormones. Your hormones instruct your kidneys. Your kidneys determine how much fluid to process and when. And only at the very end of that chain does your bladder get involved. Your bladder is the last to know. It's the final stop, not the decision maker. So when you wake up at 2 a.m. with that familiar pressure, the decision to fill your bladder was already made hours before you felt a single thing. You just weren't aware of it yet. This is where most treatments fail: bladder training, bladder medications, fluid restriction. All of them focused on the last stop in the chain. None of them addressing what started the problem in the first place. It's like trying to stop a flood by mopping the floor, while the tap upstream is still running wide open. You can keep mopping, but until someone shuts off the tap, the water keeps coming. And here's the part that should make you stop and think. Every night your body woke you up. It wasn't your bladder malfunctioning. It was a message, a signal traveling down that chain, from brain to hormone to kidney to bladder, arriving at 2 a.m. with one urgent notification. Something upstream is out of sync. You've been trying to silence the message, but the message was never the problem. The problem is what's sending it. So the real question isn't, why is my bladder waking me up? The real question is, what is telling it to? And the answer to that question begins with something most people have never heard of: a hidden clock, running inside your body right now, governing when your organs work and when they're supposed to rest. And for millions of people quietly suffering through broken nights, that clock has drifted completely off schedule. So there's a clock inside you, not a metaphor, not a concept, an actual biological timing system, built into your cells, your hormones, your organs, that governs nearly every function your body performs. When to be alert, when to digest, when to repair, when to rest. And most critically, for what we're talking about tonight, when to produce urine, and when to stop. This clock has been running since the day you were born, and for most of your life, you probably never noticed it, because when it works correctly, you don't have to. Here's how it's supposed to operate. During the day, your kidneys are active. They filter your blood, process your fluids, and produce urine at a steady, manageable rate. Your body is upright, moving, circulating. Everything is working on schedule. Then evening comes, and your body begins a quiet transition. Your brain, reading the fading light, the drop in temperature, the stillness of the environment, starts preparing for sleep. Heart rate slows, body temperature drops, muscles begin to release tension. And somewhere in that preparation, a critical hormone is released. Its job is simple and specific. Tell the kidneys to slow down, reduce urine output, protect the night. When that hormone fires correctly and on time, your kidneys listen. Production slows, output drops. Your bladder fills at a fraction of the daytime rate, and you sleep through the night without a single interruption. That's the system working exactly as it was designed. But here's where it goes wrong. That hormone, that quiet nighttime signal, is sensitive. Surprisingly sensitive. It doesn't take much to delay it. It doesn't take much to weaken it. And it certainly doesn't take much to block it entirely. And when that signal is disrupted, even slightly, your kidneys don't get the message, so they don't slow down. They keep running at daytime speed, producing, processing, sending fluid forward. While you're lying completely still in the dark, convinced your body is resting, your kidneys are working a full shift. And your bladder? Your bladder is filling, quietly, steadily, inevitably, until the pressure crosses a threshold your brain cannot ignore, and you wake up. Now here's the part most people find genuinely surprising. This isn't random. It doesn't happen because you're unlucky. It doesn't happen because your body is deteriorating. It happens because your clock has drifted. Think of it like a thermostat that's been set 3 hours behind. The house isn't broken. The heating system isn't broken. The thermostat is just running on the wrong time. So everything activates late. Everything shuts down late. And by the time your body tries to slow urine production, you've already been asleep for 2 hours. The delay is small, but the effect is massive. And the most frustrating part? This drift doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, quietly, over months and years of small, accumulated habits that nobody ever connects to sleep quality. Late meals, irregular bedtimes, evening stimulation, habits that seem completely unrelated to your bladder, but are silently shifting your biological schedule further and further off course. By the time you notice the problem, the clock has already drifted far from where it should be. Which brings us to the real question. What specific habits are pushing that clock off schedule every single evening? Because they're not the ones you'd expect. And some of them, you're almost certainly doing tonight. Most people think the problem begins when they wake up. That moment of pressure at 2 a.m., that's where they place the blame. That's where they focus their attention. But by the time you feel that pressure in the middle of the night, the decision has already been made, hours ago, while you were still awake. Think of your body like a factory that runs 2 shifts. The day shift handles activity, movement, digestion, circulation, fluid processing. The night shift handles recovery, repair, restoration, and most importantly, rest. For the transition between those 2 shifts to go smoothly, the day shift has to wrap up properly. Equipment powered down, systems handed over, everything prepared for the crew coming in. But what happens when the day shift never finishes its work? What happens when fluid that was supposed to be processed in the afternoon is still sitting in your system at 10 p.m.? The night shift inherits the backlog, and instead of focusing on recovery, it spends the entire night finishing what the day shift left behind. This is what's happening inside millions of people every evening, and it starts with something almost nobody considers. When you sit, for long, uninterrupted hours, at a desk, on a couch, in a chair, fluid doesn't circulate the way it should. It pools. Quietly and invisibly, fluid accumulates in your legs, your ankles, your lower body. You don't feel it building. You don't see it happening. But by the time you lie down and elevate your body into a horizontal position, that pooled fluid mobilizes. It re-enters circulation. It reaches your kidneys. And your kidneys, doing exactly what they're designed to do, begin processing it. At 11 p.m., at midnight, at 2 a.m., right in the middle of the sleep your body desperately needs. Then there's the food. Not just what you eat, but when you eat it. A heavy evening meal doesn't just affect your digestion. It triggers a hormonal response that keeps your metabolism running well past the hour your body was supposed to begin winding down. Your internal clock reads activity, and activity means not yet. Keep working. So the transition to night mode gets pushed back. The signal to slow urine production arrives late, and your kidneys stay active long after you've closed your eyes. And the fluids, that large glass of water with dinner, the herbal tea before bed, the small sip you take when you brush your teeth. None of them feel significant in the moment, but timing matters more than volume. Fluid consumed within 2 to 3 hours of sleep doesn't have enough time to be fully processed before your body shifts into night mode. It sits in the pipeline, waiting, and it arrives at your bladder right on schedule. Your schedule, not your body's. Everything you do between 4 p.m. and the moment you close your eyes is either preparing your body for uninterrupted sleep or quietly working against it. The evening isn't neutral. Every habit in those hours is either buying you rest or stealing it. And there are specific disruptors, ones most people never suspect, that are doing the most damage. So now you understand the evening trap. You understand that by the time your head hits the pillow, the outcome is already largely decided. But there's a deeper layer to this, because it's not just when you do things in the evening, it's what you do. And some of the most damaging habits, the ones most aggressively disrupting your body's nighttime rhythm, are ones you'd never suspect. They don't feel harmful. They don't announce themselves. They just quietly interfere with the one signal your body needs most to protect your sleep. Let's start with the one that surprises people most: alcohol. For millions of people, a drink in the evening feels like the most natural wind down in the world. It relaxes the muscles. It quiets the mind. It feels like it's helping you sleep. And in one narrow sense, it does. It helps you fall asleep faster. But here's what it does on the other side of that equation. Alcohol is one of the most potent suppressors of the hormone responsible for telling your kidneys to slow down at night. That critical nighttime signal, the one your body depends on to reduce urine production while you sleep, alcohol blocks it, directly, reliably, every single time. So while you drift off feeling relaxed and comfortable, your kidneys never receive the instruction to slow down. They keep producing, hour after hour, right through what should have been your deepest, most protected sleep. And 2 hours after you fell asleep so easily, you're awake. Now let's talk about sugar. Not just dessert, not just obvious sweets, the hidden sugar in evening meals, the refined carbohydrates, the innocent-looking crackers, the pasta, the bread consumed within a few hours of sleep. When blood sugar spikes in the evening, your body responds with a surge of insulin. That surge triggers a cascade of hormonal activity that keeps your metabolism alert and running. And a body that reads metabolic activity reads daytime. So your internal clock stalls. The transition to night mode is delayed. The signal to reduce urine production is pushed back. And your kidneys, receiving no instruction to slow down, continue working as if the day hasn't ended. The sugar didn't just affect your waistline. It confused your body's entire sense of time. And then there's the disruptor nobody ever mentions: irregular sleep timing. Your biological clock doesn't just respond to light and darkness. It responds to consistency. When you go to bed at 10 p.m. on Monday, midnight on Wednesday, and 1 a.m. on Friday, your body cannot establish a reliable rhythm. It doesn't know when night begins. It doesn't know when to start the wind-down sequence. It doesn't know when to release the signal that protects your sleep. So it hesitates, it delays, it fires the signal late, or sometimes not at all. And the result is a body permanently stuck between day mode and night mode, never fully transitioning, never fully resting, always processing when it should be protecting. Here's what makes these three disruptors so dangerous. They don't operate in isolation. Most people aren't dealing with just one. They're dealing with all three, every single evening, layered on top of each other, compounding the disruption, pushing the biological clock further and further off schedule with every passing night. And the longer it continues, the more entrenched the pattern becomes, until waking up at 2 a.m. doesn't feel like a disruption anymore. It feels like just the way things are. But it's not. And the proof is in what happens when you understand the final piece of this puzzle. Because everything we've covered so far, the clock, the evening habits, the disruptors, they all feed into one specific biological event, one precise moment where everything goes wrong. And once you understand that moment, everything changes. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Everything I just described, the alcohol, the sugar, the irregular sleep, those are choices, habits inside your control. And if tonight looks exactly like last night, that's not bad luck. That's a decision. The people who actually fix this are the ones who stop waiting for the problem to solve itself. Subscribe right now, because the difference between broken sleep and restful nights isn't information. It's whether you actually do something with it. So here's where everything clicks into place. Everything we've covered, the hidden clock, the evening trap, the silent disruptors, they all lead to this moment, this one specific biological event that most people never understand. And once you see it clearly, you'll never think about this problem the same way again. Let's go back to that moment at 2 a.m. You're lying in bed, deeply asleep, and suddenly, pressure. Now, most people's immediate explanation is simple. I drank too much before bed. It feels logical. It feels obvious. It feels like the only reasonable conclusion. But here's what's actually happening. It's not about how much fluid is in your system. It's about when that fluid arrives. Think about a river. A river fed by steady, consistent rainfall rarely floods. The water comes in gradually. The banks absorb it. The flow stays controlled and manageable. But take that same amount of water, the exact same volume, and release it all at once? The banks overflow. The surrounding land floods. And the damage happens not because there was too much water, but because it all arrived at the same time. Your bladder operates on exactly the same principle. Here's what's happening inside your body on a disrupted night. During the day, when you were sitting for long periods, when your kidneys were running slowly, when your body was delaying its fluid processing, your system was quietly accumulating a backlog, fluid that should have been processed and eliminated hours ago. Then you lie down. Pooled fluid from your legs re-enters circulation. Your kidneys, never properly instructed to slow down, receive a sudden surge of fluid to process, and instead of a slow, manageable trickle reaching your bladder through the night, it arrives in a wave, a concentrated, pressurized wave that hits your bladder faster than it can comfortably accommodate. And that sudden pressure spike, that's not your bladder being weak, that's your bladder responding perfectly to a system that delivered everything at exactly the wrong time. This is why cutting fluids in the evening often fails to solve the problem. Because the fluid causing the 2 a.m. wake-up wasn't always consumed at 9 p.m. Some of it was consumed at noon. Some of it accumulated silently in your lower body throughout the afternoon. Some of it was held back by a system running behind schedule and released all at once the moment you became horizontal. You restricted your evening water, but the backlog was already there, waiting. And this is also why the standard advice, drink less, go before bed, avoid fluids after 6 p.m., provides only partial relief at best. It addresses the surface. It does nothing about the wave. The real solution isn't about restriction. It isn't about avoidance. It's about timing. Shifting when your body processes fluid. Shifting when that wave builds. Redirecting it to hours when your body is awake and equipped to handle it, instead of hours when you're supposed to be deeply, completely, peacefully asleep. And that shift? That's not complicated. It doesn't require medication. It doesn't require sacrifice. It just requires understanding exactly how to retrain your body's rhythm, which is precisely what comes next. So let's talk about the fix, not a workaround, not a temporary patch, not another restriction that makes your evenings smaller and your sleep only marginally better. A genuine reset, one that works with your body's biology, not against it. Because here's the principle that changes everything. You cannot force your body into better sleep, but you can lead it there. Your biological clock doesn't respond to willpower. It doesn't respond to frustration. It doesn't respond to cutting every enjoyable evening habit down to nothing. It responds to signals, consistent, deliberate, well-timed signals that tell it, night is coming, wind down, protect the sleep. And the good news? Those signals are simpler to create than you think. The first shift, move your fluids forward. This is the single most impactful change most people can make. Not drinking less, drinking earlier. Front-load your fluid intake into the morning and early afternoon, when your kidneys are naturally most active, most efficient, and most equipped to process and eliminate. By early evening, you're tapering naturally, not restricting aggressively, not dehydrating yourself, simply giving your body enough time to process what you've consumed before you ask it to rest. The wave doesn't disappear. It just moves to hours when you're awake to handle it. The second shift, give your legs a job before bed. Remember the pooled fluid we talked about, the fluid that accumulates silently in your lower body during long periods of sitting? The solution isn't complicated. A short walk in the early evening, elevating your legs for 20 to 30 minutes before bed. Light movement that encourages circulation before you become horizontal. You're essentially giving your body the opportunity to process that fluid while you're still awake, instead of leaving it as a midnight delivery to your bladder. The third shift, protect the signal. Your body's nighttime hormone, the one responsible for telling your kidneys to slow down, needs a consistent, undisturbed environment to fire correctly. That means removing the disruptors we identified. Not permanently, not dramatically, just strategically. Finish alcohol earlier in the evening if you choose to drink at all. Reduce the heavy, high-sugar evening meals that stall your metabolic clock. And most importantly, go to bed at the same time every night. Consistency is the language your biological clock understands best. Give it a reliable schedule, and it will begin protecting your sleep automatically. The fourth shift, calm your nervous system deliberately. A body under stimulation cannot transition smoothly into night mode. Screens, stress, late conversations, unresolved mental tension, all of it keeps your nervous system in a state of low-level alertness. And an alert nervous system sends alert signals, which means alert kidneys, which means a filling bladder, at exactly the wrong hour. 10 to 15 minutes of deliberate stillness before bed, quiet, dark, calm, is not indulgence. It's biology. It's giving your body the one thing it needs to make the transition cleanly. None of these shifts are dramatic. None of them require medication, supplements, or major lifestyle overhauls. They require consistency, small, deliberate changes, applied in the right sequence at the right time, that cumulatively retrain your body's rhythm back to where it was always supposed to be. And when that rhythm is restored, the change in your nights is nothing short of remarkable. So picture this, not a fantasy, not an exaggeration, just what happens when the reset actually works. It's 2 a.m., the same hour that used to pull you out of the deepest part of your sleep, the same hour that used to send you shuffling across a cold floor, squinting under a harsh light, surrendering the best part of your night. But tonight, nothing. No pressure, No urgency, no interruption, just silence. And sleep. Deep, unbroken, genuinely restorative sleep, moving through its full cycle the way it was always supposed to. You wake up when your body is ready, not when pressure forces you, not when discomfort negotiates you out of bed, when you're actually done sleeping. And the difference is immediate. You notice it before you even stand up. That heaviness behind your eyes, gone. That low, dull fatigue that used to follow you into your first cup of coffee, gone. That foggy, irritable, running on empty feeling that became so familiar you stopped recognizing it as abnormal, gone. Because here's what most people don't fully appreciate until it stops. Broken sleep doesn't just make you tired, it quietly dismantles everything. Your concentration, your patience, your emotional resilience, your ability to show up fully for the people and moments that matter most to you. Every night of interrupted sleep is a withdrawal from an account your body cannot afford to keep depleting. And every night of genuine, unbroken rest is a deposit, one that compounds, one that returns something to you that no amount of caffeine, no afternoon nap, no weekend sleep-in was ever fully replacing. And here's what's subtle about this transformation. It doesn't announce itself dramatically. There's no single morning where you wake up and think, today everything changed. It's quieter than that. One morning you realize you can't remember the last time you woke up at 2 a.m. One afternoon you notice you haven't reached for a second coffee. One evening you go to bed without that low, unconscious dread. That background anxiety about how many times tonight will interrupt you. It just stops. And in that stillness, you get something back that broken sleep had been stealing so gradually you'd forgotten it was ever yours. Your body was never broken. It was never failing you. It was never deteriorating beyond repair. It was running the wrong schedule. And a body running the wrong schedule doesn't need to be replaced. It needs to be reset. That's what you now have the knowledge to do. Not someday. Not after trying one more medication or one more supplement that addresses the symptom while ignoring the cause. Now. With the understanding of what's actually happening inside you every night, and the simple, deliberate shifts that bring your biology back into rhythm, your nights don't have to look like they have been. That's not pessimism dressed up as realism. That's just a clock that needs resetting. And now you know exactly how. Thanks for watching all the way through. Staying informed is key to living a healthier, longer life. If you want more simple, practical health advice, make sure you subscribe and tap the next video on your screen. And before you go, leave a comment and rate this from 1 to 10. Your feedback helps me create better guidance for you.